Hey Fools, Matt Copenheffer here with our Ask a Fool series. Today we have a question from our Facebook page. The question from Marty Ford is Fannie Mae, ticker symbol FNMA, a good buy? Marty, I'm glad you asked. This has been, let's say, an exciting time for Fannie Mae's equity shares and the equity shareholders. Now, let's be clear right off the top here that what we're talking about, again, it's the Fannie Mae common stock, ticker symbol FNMA. These are common shares that trade over the counter. These are different than the preferred shares. If you've been hearing Fannie Mae and its stock mentioned a lot in the news lately, a lot of that has been about hedge funds taking a position in preferred shares. The preferred shares and the common shares are a different story. So when it comes to determining whether these common shares are a good investment, the first thing that I always like to do with any investment is open up the company's annual report. And since there are still common shares and preferred shares and debt outstanding on Fannie Mae, it is still filing with the SEC. So I opened up its annual report, and on the very first page, at the very top of the very first page of that report, we get this, and I'm going to read to you from the report. We have been under conservatorship with the Federal Housing Finance Agency acting as conservator since September 6, 2008. As conservator, FHFA succeeded to all rights, titles, powers, and privileges of the company and of any shareholder, officer, or director of the company with respect to the company and its assets. Continues, our directors do not have any fiduciary duties to any person or entity except the conservator, and accordingly are not obligated to consider the interests of the company, the holders of the equity, or the debt securities, or the holders of Fannie Mae MBS, unless specifically directed to do so by the conservator. It's a lot to digest there, but if we scroll a little bit down in that annual report, we come to another interesting section that reads, our conservatorship has no specified termination date, and we do not know when or how the conservatorship will be terminated, whether we will continue to exist following conservatorship, or what changes to our business structure will be made during or following the conservatorship. Now, what does this all mean in the aggregate? In the aggregate, what we're saying here, Fannie Mae is in conservatorship. In that conservatorship, its number one responsibility, its only responsibility is doing what the government wants to do and kicking its profits through dividends to the government. When it comes to shareholders, whether they be preferred or common shareholders or debt holders, their concerns, their interests are ignored. Now, in terms of this conservatorship ending, there is no set date for when it ends. It may not end. And it may be that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are wound down before this conservatorship ends. And in fact, earlier this week, we heard some members of Congress talking about introducing a bill that would do exactly that, wind down Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So when we think about this as an investment, this is all a very big deal because this creates all of these hurdles that have to be overcome for equity investors, for stockholders, common stockholders, to be successful in this investment. So we need Fannie Mae to continue to be profitable and continue to be profitable to an extent that it can pay back the remaining bailout to the government, that it can continue to be profitable in order to give the government a profit on its investment. And then we have to bet that the government will decide it's not going to wind down Fannie Mae. And then we have to bet that the government will decide to reprivatize Fannie Mae. And then we have to bet that when Fannie Mae gets reprivatized, and again, that when is an if. So if Fannie Mae does get reprivatized, that the state of Fannie Mae, the profitability of Fannie Mae, the structure of Fannie Mae, and the valuation of Fannie Mae are all to such an extent that common shareholders will be able to make a profit on an investment today. So this is, in my view, a huge, huge speculation. Like any speculation, it could end up being successful in the end. It could be a successful speculation. And if that's so, there will probably be people who, see this video at some point and come back to me and say, hey, you were wrong. I made money on Fannie Mae. That may be the case. But it's still a speculation. My preference is to look for companies that are in private hands today, that are making profits and are able to give those profits to their shareholders. That's not the case with Fannie Mae's common shares, and that's why I'm staying far, far away. Again, this is Matt Copenheffer with the Ask a Fool series, and you can always read more on Fool.com.